that feeling like I have to choose, and work lost, like really hard. This baby is my whole world, and I would absolutely give up anything. If I have to just like shut the doors and walk away, I will. And so I think that I struggled a little bit. Like, obviously I can't shut the doors and walk away, but I had to force myself into a different mindset of like, the business will be what it'll be. You have staff that you trust, do your best, but your baby comes first.
All right, well, welcome back to the Breastfeeding Diaries episode 4. I can't believe we're already at episode 4. It's crazy, but today I'm being joined by my friend Maggie, and we met each other at Beltway, actually, our church. Yeah. And she is an entrepreneur. She owns a coffee shop, and she has an amazing story of being able to nurse her baby for over a year, despite the challenge of being on her feet all day at work and having to deal with oversupply. So let's just jump into your story today. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. Yeah, I really, the process of, preparing for birth started when I got pregnant, because I did not set up my business to be pregnancy friendly or like small child friendly at all. Like, yeah. I was working on like slowing down because I was married and we wanted to start a family, but like once I got pregnant, I realized like, crap. I am working 12-hour shifts. Yeah. I am waking up at 4 a.m. every morning, 6 days a week. Yeah. It was a lot. So that was the first step.
You have staff, right? Yeah. So what does the coffee shop situation look like? What is your role?
I just wear a lot of hats. I know there are businesses that exist where the owner is hardly ever there and doesn't do much. I don't know how they operate. I don't understand. I can't like mentally make myself shift into just an owner mode. I have to be there. Yeah. I have to be hands-on. Mm-hmm. I feel like if I'm not there, it doesn't run like I want it to run, which is not like I have an amazing staff. I've actually been really blessed with my managers and my employees and like always had enough help. It's just there's things that like you want to be the one to do and customers need to see your face. So it just wasn't a priority to step back because I'm young and didn't have kids yet and could do it. But yeah, pregnancy made me be like, oh, we need to change some things. So really the whole 9 months was just like training people, like trying to step back. The beginning of the year, my son was born in April, so in January we closed on Mondays and like took a whole day off. So that helped a lot. And then by the end of the pregnancy, like we were doing practices, like I'm here but pretend I'm not here, and if you need me, yeah, I'll be here, but like I'm just huge pregnant in the back, Yeah. So I was still doing a little bit of stuff, but trying to make it more like I was unable to take a maternity leave if I didn't change anything. Yeah. So I wanted to at least make it to where I got a good maternity leave and was able to enjoy my son. Yeah. So
some people think that if you're an entrepreneur, you can just work your own hour, do whatever you want, and kind of just be free-spirited or like go travel and things like that. But I think your scenario is not like that.
I'm sure some people do work it out like that, but it depends on the business. Like in the food industry, no. Like I don't get to go on vacation. If I go on vacation, I have to close the shop, and 14 people don't get a salary that week. And it's like, so there's just a lot to consider whenever you're operating a business. And yeah, when you go home, you're thinking about work. And so yeah, it was a big mental shift more than anything.
So going back to, college or earlier, you have dreams of becoming an entrepreneur and opening this coffee shop. And tell me more about that.
Yeah, I wanted to be a veterinarian when I graduated high school. I did all the extracurriculars and classes, and I was valedictorian. I was on the up and up about going to vet school. And then I just don't know what happened. I graduated and just said, I don't want that lifestyle. Like, I think it was the Lord, like, kind of protecting me, because it's just, in those types of industries, it's hard to be a wife and mother. And I admire veterinarians that can make that work. But it's hard to be a wife and mother if that is your priority with a medical field job like that. So I just said, I can't do that with my lifestyle. And I had no idea what I was going to do until junior year of college. And I studied abroad in Ireland. And we just visited all these cafes. I wouldn't call them coffee shops, wouldn't call them bakeries. There was something in the middle. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what I tried when I got back from Ireland. I was like, I think that's what I want to open. Like, I want to make that in Tuscola. So it's somewhere in between a coffee shop and bakery. And like, we just focus on making everything homemade and fresh. And it's a small menu, but you know it's good ingredients. You know that it was made there. Like, that was the goal.
Yeah, I feel like your menu is huge. I love your selection.
I'm always trying to make it smaller, and it's hard.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like it's so delicious. And, like, I know you've done things like foods. Like, I think you've done, like, pot pies or pizzas or casseroles, things like that.
Back when I had more time and I was working the 14-hour shifts, we did a lot of stuff. We pared it down since then because of my child, so.
Yeah. So you already had dreams of motherhood even before you met Colby. Like, you knew that you wanted to have a family.
Yes, but I will say I was not a baby person. Like, again, I want to be a veterinarian. I'm playing with the dogs, not the children at parties. Like, I don't... It's super interesting because I don't consider myself a baby person. But the moment, like, I held my baby, or the moment, like, you know... somewhat during pregnancy when you like feel that connection, but it's like something in your heart kind of just unfolds and like becomes mother. And I felt like completely different afterwards. So like even my nieces, who I obviously loved before my child, I love even more now because like that part of my heart wasn't awake yet, I guess. I was more of an animal person. Yeah I'm sure there's a lot of people like that.
Okay, so what was your experience with breastfeeding, like growing up, your mom, sisters, anything like that?
I was breastfed at the beginning. My mom was undersupply, didn't have a lot of information at the time. She was the generation where they were like, it's difficult, just do formula. So I was initially breastfed and then switched to formula. So, but my sister, my older sister is 9 years older than me. So she already had 2 children by the time that I got pregnant. And so she breastfed and she had a pretty successful journey. So I got both sides in my family. But genetically, I'm a lot like my mother. So I was genuinely pretty worried that I would be have an undersupply issue as well. Because she tried and tried and tried, but she couldn't produce enough. Yeah. I think at my 1-month appointment, they were like, you're underfeeding her a lot. So that's why she had to switch to formula. Yeah. But I had a lot of prayer about that. Like, I was genuinely like asking the Lord, like, please, like, just bless my supply. Please don't let me struggle with that area. It was really important to me.
Even while you were pregnant?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And would you say at that point, did you already feel like you were maybe more on the crunchy side of health?
I'm so crunchy. Okay. I'm so crunchy. More and more so every day, but...
So what did Colby think when you said you wanted to do a birth center? What was his reaction?
First, like, he didn't tell me this till afterwards. My husband's very quiet, but I think at first he was super hesitant because he's a firefighter paramedic, so he's in the hospital all the time.
That's what I was thinking.
Personally, I've never been to the hospital. I've never had surgery. I've never walked in the hospital, really, besides once with my grandmother who had heart surgery. So I was always told, go where you feel most comfortable and, like, whatever you feel the safest. So I was like, I don't feel comfortable in a hospital. I also don't feel comfortable with a home birth because we live an hour from the hospital. So that didn't seem, very smart. But the birth center, the fact that there was one in Abilene and it was so close to the hospital, that was like a perfect in-between for me. And once we walked around and like Colby saw all the equipment and like that it's not just, giving birth in a bed, like she has actual tools and medical knowledge and he felt better.
As an EMT, had he experienced, or firefighter, is he firefighter or EMT?
Firefighters are paramedics, okay. But he's a firefighter.
So doing that, had he experienced some birth trauma? Like, had he seen some traumatic things?
He's been in 3 delivery rooms.
Okay.
but he's never like delivered a baby out in the field or anything.
Okay.
But during like clinicals and stuff, they watched a few births, but that was it.
Yeah, because I know sometimes people either have, if they do have a home birth that goes wrong, the EMTs are kind of the first ones there, or if they accidentally can't make it to the hospital, then that's usually a situation
No,
where...
he felt really good once he saw it all.
Yeah.
He just had a hard time envisioning it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so birth story, how did that go?
Overall, really well. My one regret is, like, I did not rest very well the last 2 weeks of pregnancy. There was a lot, it was a bad storm of events. There was a lot of things going wrong at the shop, and I was trying to step back, like I talked about before, but, like, the coffee brewer was going down, like, every morning. And so, you know, entrepreneur, either you can't sell coffee or make money, or you go up there, even though you're almost 40 weeks pregnant at 6 a.m. and brew coffee manually for 3 hours straight. Because, I just stood in the corner brewing coffee. We were having a water pressure issue, and our equipment has heating elements, so it shuts off if the water gets too low. So, I don't know. It was a whole bunch of stuff. But the day I went into labor, I was literally up at 6 brewing coffee manually at the shop. So thankfully everything kind of corrected itself after I gave birth. But I went all day running errands and like helping, and I didn't go into labor till like 4 p.m. that evening, and I was literally doing something for the shop when I went into labor. And I was like, you know, I got Braxton Hicks a lot. So I was like, this might be Braxton Hicks. It might not be. But they were like getting pretty like consistent and like a little stronger. And I was like, So I texted my midwife. I was like, high chance I'm in labor. And so we just like, I stayed home that evening and like just kind of tried to rest. But I couldn't really sleep in between contractions. And I just labored all night basically at home. And I told my husband, I was like, you go sleep so that you're rested in the morning, and like I'll wake you up if we need to go somewhere. Yeah. We didn't leave the house till like 5:30 the next morning, and went straight to his parents' house so that we were closer.
Was it still more like crampy, or was it kind of like you're breathing through it?
I was breathing through it, but like my contractions just weren't very consistent, and I was a little paranoid because my mom had me in 2 hours, like from like first contraction she felt to in the hospital. She had me like in 2 pushes 2 hours later. Wow. So I was telling my midwife, I was like, I want to be early. I want to be there early because I do not know. So they were like less than 5 minutes apart for sure. And so she told me, I was like, let's do 7 a.m. So I got to the birth center at 7 a.m. and I was already at like 6 to 7 centimeters. Wow. So she started me on, I had to do the penicillin because of the group beta strep. Oh, yeah. I was positive for it. So the group beta strep the penicillin needed like 4 hours to get through my system, which I was really disappointed about because that was like the only non-crunchy thing I had to do. Because like I wouldn't have even had to have an IV at that point, but I did. But it's fine. So I needed to labor at least 4 hours, which in my head I was like, that's a long time. But I got there at 7 and we started it immediately. And I got to 9 like super quickly. Like I just did breathing and I got in the tub for a little bit. But like water makes me claustrophobic, so I didn't stay in the tub for very long. And then finally got into like close to needing to push, and we still had 45 minutes left on the penicillin. So she like kind of put me on the bed sideways and like had me wait a little bit, which was honestly the worst part. Like it would have been so smooth if I hadn't had to wait. And I was still at 9. I wasn't quite at 10 because his sac hadn't burst yet. So whenever she was like, I'm not gonna break your water until 45 minutes are up. And so like once we get to that 45, I'll break your water and I'm sure you'll go straight to a 10. So that's what we did. And then once I like started pushing, I actually felt really good. Yeah. Like the pushing, I was like, I'm in control of this. Yes. I hated the out of control feeling of like transition and like just the contractions one after the other. Yeah. But once I was pushing, I like felt more strong and in control. And I pushed for like 30 minutes and then he was born.
Yay.
And he crowned and came out in the same contraction. So it was
Wow.
like, I'm originally Colby was going to catch him, and I'm so glad that did not work out because he came out so fast. Like, my midwife could barely catch him.
It had to be.
Like, he shot out of me, and it was I'll never forget that feeling.
Yeah.
Of like just limbs exiting really quickly. So that was interesting.
I'm gonna start a new
Yeah.
video. Just so we have two separate ones in case
Yeah.
in case this baby decides to get me. Okay.
I might be rambling. You can stop me.
Okay, so he's out, he's here. Was he healthy? Everything's looking good. You have your golden hour, skin to skin, all that.
Yep, we did the skin to skin, golden hour, the little bath, the herbal bath. We did that. He was great. He exited so fast that like my birth canal didn't squeeze out a lot of fluid. So it took him like 60 seconds to breathe, which was like the worst 60 seconds of my life. And like my midwife was really close to having to like take him to the ground and like start resuscitations. But thankfully, like 45 seconds to a minute, he started crying, and so that was great. And my husband cut the cord, and we really went home really quickly after that. The only reason we had to stay is like I didn't have a exterior tear, but since he came out so quickly, I had like a triangle shaped rip in my birth canal, so she had to sew me up there. And that was
Is that like a cervical tear or
it's like
second
the
or
wall,
third?
like
Oh.
just in the wall.
Okay.
And so she had to like jab me with Pitocin afterwards. Like I was bleeding quite. I think she said I lost like 2 liters. Like it was like borderline needing blood, but she just gave me like 2 bags of fluid.
Yeah.
And I felt fine. Like I never like almost passed out or anything. So, but that was what kept us there a little longer, was just having to get sewed up.
Yeah.
Which was the worst part, honestly, because your adrenaline's gone.
Yeah. Yep.
And we breastfed there. He did have a bunch of mouth ties, which, you know, probably would have been a bigger issue if I hadn't have had so much supply. But he had the upper lip, the tongue, and 2 cheek ties.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
yeah, she told me that right away, and that was, so I was at least prepared to, like, have some problems. But I had already had some indicators that I was an oversupply because I was harvesting colostrum, like,
Oh, wow.
12 weeks ahead of birth, and I had already had like 300 vials of colostrum saved up, like, and I wasn't trying. I was just like, every time I felt uncomfortable, I was expressing out the colostrum.
Yeah.
And so I had saved up hundreds of little 1 millimeter vials of colostrum. So I was like already feeling that like the Lord was answering my prayers in that regard. So I wasn't super worried at the time.
Yeah. So then you go home, you start latching him. Is he latching good, or the
Not
milk ties
great.
throwing him off?
Not great. The ties did throw him off a little bit, like, but he was getting full. Like my midwife told me like he's not latching correctly, but I also, on top of oversupply, my flow was so fast. I felt like I was waterboarding him every time. Like he was just drowning in milk. So I feel like that helped him a little bit to like his latch didn't have to be perfect.
So did you nurse on demand? Did you pump at all to help with that, or just kind of played with it to figure out what would work for him?
I started pumping just from discomfort, really. About 3 or 4 days in, I got engorged, and he was nursing as much as he wanted to, and I was still feeling it, and I was like, okay. And I hadn't even pulled the pump out of the box. I didn't even know how it worked. So I had my sister come over and like show me how to work it. And I started pumping then, but I didn't pump for him necessarily. I was just pumping to relieve the pressure.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't empty one boob, yet alone both.
Yeah.
And so I would often have to feed him and then pump the other one.
Yeah.
And then I'd swap the next time.
Did it hurt at all, his latch?
No. I had the first time mom like kind of get chapped and sore. But it really, looking back, like it really wasn't that bad. We did go get his ties corrected when he was about a month old.
Yeah.
And that helped him more than it helped me, I feel like. Like he was able to be more efficient.
Yeah.
And he ate super fast. I think it was because of my flow. But like he would nurse for like 10 minutes max.
Did he have any, because sometimes with oversupply, the baby can have some symptoms of like kind of a frothy stool or reflux that kind of like pairs with it, them just kind of drowning in the foremilk and not getting like the fatty part. But maybe if you just did one side, that probably helped.
Yeah, so I learned that really early, and I'm glad I did, because I was always told like 10 minutes each side, or 10 minutes each side. But it was explained to me that, you know, the hind milk is really important too. So that's why I only let him nurse one side, because I wanted him to try to empty that one out, and then I would just pump the other side. But he had a lot of spit up. It was, I think it's just he got full, his belly got full before he realized he was full because of the flow. And so he spit up a lot. And it was just a little at a time. It was never like vomiting milk. But every time he ate, like, I would just hold the burp rag. Like, he definitely was getting too much milk, and he gained a lot of weight. Like, he was a pretty hefty baby. He just turned a year old, and he was like 25.5 pounds.
Wow.
So he got plenty of milk. And the spit up eased up later. I think after he like learned how to like manage the flow a little better. He had to do a lot of learning on that side of things.
Yeah, I think when they have the ties and their latch isn't good, they not only are swallowing the milk, but they're also swallowing air.
Mm-hmm.
And then that creates those gas bubbles. And then that can also create like where it seems like they're hungry, but they're not. They're actually just had an air bubble. And then when that gas came, then all of a sudden they're like, oh, now I'm hungry. And it's like, well,
yeah,
you don't know if you're hungry or not if you have an air bubble.
Yeah. So there was a lot of that, like a lot of just, he didn't have like colic or gas much, but he spit up quite a bit.
Yeah. So let's talk about getting back into work then. So you were at home with him, you're with him all the time. When did you start kind of leaving him alone, or did you bring him with you?
So I think I stayed away completely for like 3 or 4 weeks. And then like I would just show up with him and like, you know, keep an eye on things. And it was a weird summer. It was during summer that I went back in. It was like after the school year had ended. And we were training a lot of people. So I kind of just devoted myself more to the training process. So I just strapped him to me and went to work to train the new hires.
Did he ever, at that early on, did he like, oh my gosh, he's crying, he needs milk, and you're right in the middle of something? Did you have to like pull out your boob?
I got so
right
sweaty.
there
I got so sweaty with embarrassment so many times. Like the postpartum hormones and like the feeling of overwhelm hit so hard sometimes. But
did you feel comfortable nursing in front of people yet? Or early on,
I would go to the bathroom just from like the boss employee perspective, and some of them are in high school, and so I tried to go to the employee bathroom and just, you know, separate myself a little bit. I was comfortable in front of family nursing, but yeah, it was hard to like maintain like your I'm the boss composure when you're like sweating and like have a baby strapped to you and like looking super uncomfortable with your hair falling out. But I think that like I handled it with as much grace as I could, and he was such a good baby. Like, especially in the early days, it really wasn't that bad because I sleep all the time. I had a travel bassinet. We had a little spot where he could safely be, and he just slept, and that was how I did it for a time. It wasn't ideal necessarily, but especially since my husband's a firefighter, he was gone for 48 hours. So, like, there was no other option. Like, I have to take him, or, you know, my parents, both of them are still like partially working, and then my husband's parents are in Abilene, so it would be less convenient to go all the way to Abilene and then back to Tuscola. So I took him with me, and, you know, that's the pros of having your own business right there is, you know, there's a lot of cons too, but at least you can take your baby to work and nobody can say anything.
Yeah.
So.
And in the early days, like you said, they do sleep a lot, but then, so at what point through all of that would you say, was there a low point where you maybe were like, either work, I don't want to do this, or breastfeeding, I don't want to do this? Like, did you hit a point like that where it was, you had to almost make that pivotal point, or like a pivotal moment for you?
Yeah, I got a lot of postpartum anxiety, not necessarily depression, but anxiety in the realm of like that feeling like I have to choose, and like work lost like really hard. Like I was like, this baby is my whole world, and like I would absolutely give up anything. Like if I have to just like shut the doors and walk away, I will. And so like I think that I struggled a little bit. Like obviously I can't shut the doors and walk away, but I had to force myself into a different mindset of like, the business will be what it'll be. You have staff that you trust, like do your best, but like your baby comes first. And so that was, I mean, I was leaving bottles at home. Like he did drink from a bottle. I would pump before work if I left him at home. But so I'm getting up at 3:30 instead of 4 to pump, and then like leave a bottle for him, and then like start my clock, leave for work. Like literally on a timer. Like I have to leave the shop at 8:30 in the morning to get home in time for his next feeding. So like I set pretty strict parameters, especially in the beginning when he's so like reliant on nursing, and like I would just leave in the middle of a rush because I have to, and you know, I had enough staff at the time, so it wasn't a huge deal. It's not like I was leaving them hanging. But
do you think if you had maybe thought, oh, let me pump instead of running back to feed him, do you think you may have not held those boundaries? So I think sometimes people's like, well, I can push it back 5 minutes or 10 minutes or an hour, and then next thing you know, that pump is being skipped altogether versus like, the baby is waiting for me, I have to get home. Like maybe that helped motivation wise.
And the anxiety did not let me forget. Like I was having such hard anxiety, so much so that like it's a weird thing, but like I wouldn't let anyone else drive him. Like I had, except for my husband obviously, but I think to this day, I think my mom has driven him from my house to the shop once. Like I don't know, that was just a weird postpartum anxiety thing where I didn't want anyone else to drive him, and like I didn't feel safe.
Yeah. I think your anxiety was more around safety, or around like he's gonna cry, he needs his mommy, he needs milk.
I felt like he wanted me, and like I wanted to be there for him. I have a lot of help even today. I have so many people willing to watch him, take care of him, but I told them all at the beginning, I was like, I want to take care of him. And like that was probably where my anxiety was like driving at. Like that's why I felt that so strongly. It's like I want to be his everything, and I should be his everything because I'm his mommy. And so I've gotten a lot better with that anxiety, and you know, as he got older, he could not stay in the travel bassinet, so I've had to accept help and like get over some of that, and that's been good for me too. But yeah, the only time in regards to the pumping, the one time that I did push it was Saturdays are our busiest day, and like I don't have anybody that can wear my hat on a Saturday. Like if I'm not there on a Saturday, we don't have half our menu. Yeah. That's just what it is. So it was an especially busy one, and I didn't get to leave right when I was supposed to leave. And I don't even think I had my pump with me, if I'm honest. Like I pumped right before I left and I forgot it or something like that. And I got home and I was engorged, and I ended up getting mastitis because one of my boobs like produced way more than the other one. And it was that one that got engorged. And I woke up the next morning, I was like, I'm not okay. Like, mastitis is painful. I did not know how painful it really was. So I had to deal with that. And I had a really good lactation consultant that helped me walk through that. And I didn't end up taking antibiotics. I like pounded garlic and Epsom salt soaks, and I squeezed out the clots and like iced it. And we did all the things. Vitamin C, elderberry, like nurse every 2 hours through the pain, and I got rid of it without the antibiotics. But
that's awesome. So after you'd come home at 8:30 in the morning and feed him, what did the rest of the day look like as far as schedule?
Kind of just depended on the day. If I for a good chunk of time didn't have to come back at all, and so my shift was 5 a.m. to 8:30 or 9, and then I'd go home. And so that was a really good season. The shop goes through seasons where we're busier after school or somebody's sick. If anyone's sick, I'm the one filling in for them most of the time.
And you would bring him with you, or was Colby available?
Sometimes he was available. He has 4 days off and 2 days on. So if it fell within his 4 days, I would leave Peter at home and just let Colby watch him. I had plenty of milk, and so I had some in the freezer. We'd use that if we had to, but I'd have to pump if we used milk. So it was like I just pumped whatever I could. And then I lost my train of thought.
You're good. So you went from doing like 12-hour shifts to like a 3-hour shift?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, there were errands to run, but the workload at the shop was a lot less, which is good because I'm like learning how to be a mom, trying to keep things running at home and like be, learning a lot of new skills. So that was a really big blessing. I probably work close to 30 hours a week now. So it kind of rebalanced depending on my staff. So it was good for a time, and then
As he got older,
I started working a little bit more.
Yeah.
Which I'm not necessarily, I want to try to back off completely, but like I said, it's in cycles.
You kind of want to stay at almost your work-life balance is stay at home mom with owning a coffee shop versus like full-time or part-time.
Yes, yeah.
So full-time at home with Peter, and then you own the business and hold the keys to it on the side. That's kind of the end goal.
Like show up and make sure everything's running smoothly, but like have someone to fill all the positions. It would be my ideal life. But I do want to make sure I'm there, like looking in on it every once in a while.
Do you think, like, what would you tell your younger self or a younger entrepreneur? Because to me it sounds like you busted your butt and put in the work while you were not a mom, and now you're able to see those fruits. And I think some people, maybe they want to stay home right now and they're like, oh, I could start a business, but like, no, you have to put in the work to start a business. Like you put in those hours and all of that time and attention before you had a kid, kind of setting yourself up for what some people would think is really an ideal situation.
Yeah, I am super grateful for the time pre-baby that I got to like pour into it, make it successful. I don't think I could have done that if I had already had kids. I'm sure it's possible, but you do have to make a lot of sacrifices. Like I am constantly in a sleep deprivation just from the nature of it. I don't have the best sleeper. He's an angel everywhere else, but he wakes up probably 3 times a night. So on a good night, he'll wake up once. But I mean, if I go to bed at 9:30 and I wake up at 4, waking up once is still a big deal. So that's been my struggle, is like the sleep deprivation and like finding how I function the best with that. But if someone wanted to start a business today with kids, I would just say pick something that allows you to live how you want to live. Like I didn't really pick the way I was running the shop in the beginning was not conducive to a family, and I know that now, but nobody ever mentions that. Nobody ever says, hey, make sure you build your business like this if you want children. They just say build it, make it successful, then build 2 or 3 more, So for a woman, like, think about your future family and think about what your goals are, and if you want to breastfeed, if that's important to you, because you will have to make sacrifices. There's sacrifices to every career. Even stay-at-home moms have to make sacrifices. But if owning your own business is important to you, just make it conducive to your lifestyle.
Yeah. And what other sacrifices do you think y'all have had to make? Like, have you had to make financial sacrifices that if you had a full-time job or something else, wouldn't be possible?
Everyone assumes that, I make all the money in our family because I own a business. That's not how small businesses work. Like, you make enough, but your priority is paying the people that work for you. So I am grateful that I have like we own the Branch Coffee House, like my family owns it, so it's not like we're leasing or renting, and like I don't have to have that hanging over my head where like if you're leasing or renting a business, like the more you work, the more profit you make, because you make the same amount either way, no matter how much you work, if you're on salary. So I'm really grateful that that's not the boat we're in, because it has allowed me to back off if I wanted to. But financially, like, live within your, like, as long as you're living within your means, like, my family has always been more important to me than money. But, and, you know, the city takes care of the firefighters pretty well. Like,
yeah. I feel like you're pretty chill, pretty down to earth, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a crunchy homesteader, so I make my own eggs. It's fine.
Yeah. Oh, do you have chickens?
Yeah, we have chickens, sheep, cows. Ooh. I'm hoping my dairy cow is pregnant. We're about to delve into dairy just a little bit. We're trying to get her to have a baby so we can milk her.
And that's so fun for Peter to grow up with, like, yes, you're probably not spending all day as a mom, you know, playing with blocks and teaching him shit. You're not spending all day necessarily, like, teaching him these things. You're probably taking care of the animals, but he's learning along the day throughout the way.
Yeah. I think that's part of the reason why, like, my priorities have shifted a little bit, because, like, I love the farm life, and I want to show that side to him, and not just be like, Mommy was always at the shop, you know, growing up. I want him to, like, I want to experience those things with him. And I'm planning on homeschooling too, so that's like, I gotta have time for that. So I have to, like, build my future for that.
Yeah. And then, okay, going back to nursing and breastfeeding.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, I remember what the question was. Okay, so when you have an oversupply, having milk in the freezer, did you ever still feel like it wasn't enough? Or did you feel like we have enough, it's chill, it's cool?
I always had enough. I think I was really focusing on, like, the benefits of, like, actually nursing. Like, theoretically, I could have stopped at any point I wanted to, because I was putting away, between when he was 1 month and when he was 6 months, I was putting away 20 ounces a day, like, on top of feeding him.
Wow.
And I ended up, like, giving some away. I sold some for, like, $1 a bag, like, to friends, and, like, had a couple friends who had foster situations and needed some. And so I was able to provide in those instances. But, like, I wanted him to nurse as much as possible with the antibodies, and, like, the way, how amazing, like, our boobs are, of just knowing exactly what's going on with your baby, like, through their saliva and through, like, just when they get sick, it knows exactly what to do. And I just found that fascinating. Yeah. And so, like, by me taking a bag from a month ago and putting it in a bottle, I felt like, and, you know, it's still breast milk, it's still my breast milk, and it's still great, but I was really, like, trying so hard to, like, just keep him on the boob.
Yeah.
So, and it blessed other people, so it's not like the milk goes to waste. And so,
how did you feel knowing that your mom struggled with undersupply and that was a fear for you, and then here you were just getting above and beyond?
Yeah, I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful that we live in the time we do, where I, like, had more information, and my sister had a good experience, and, like, I was grateful. Not that we could have figured it out either way, but the fact that the Lord just answered my, like, concern and my fear in that area so, like, vastly, so much so that I was, like, having to take a pump to work, and, like, even if I'm only working 4 hours, I was taking my pump to work. That was just a really big blessing.
Which pump did you use?
Oh, I'm gonna forget the brand, but it was like a one you just put in your bra.
Okay.
Like, it has a little
cozy
engine.
Yeah.
And it was super discreet. So I really could just go to the bathroom and put them in and walk back out. And as long as I didn't go up front, like, nobody could really tell I was pumping. So, yeah, I really liked it, though. I didn't have to deal with, like, the being hooked to a chair, you know?
Yeah. What was the weirdest or most interesting place or time that you had to nurse Peter?
Oh my gosh, I was there in the afternoon, and Colby and Peter were both there. Like, Colby would sometimes be around, and like Peter needed attention, so he would like come watch him at the shop. And I thought all the employees had left. And I asked Colby to check. I was like, can you go up front and make sure that all of the employees are gone, because he needs to eat and I don't want to go to the bathroom if no one's here. And he was like, yeah, they're all gone. And then I literally pull out a boob and start nursing, and an employee walks into the kitchen, a male employee, of course. And he didn't see anything because like the baby's on the boob. But I was just like, I just look at Colby. I was like, oh no, somebody is here. And he was like, I did not see him at all. And the employee was so great. He just like didn't even look that direction. He just walked out the back door. But that was the one like embarrassing moment I had. Just like, again, going back to being the boss. You know,
yeah.
Just uncomfortable. But other than that, I had my own challenges, but my baby was provided for, and we have lots of help, and it was like just a really overall smooth experience.
What about solids or biting? Did you encounter any of those challenges?
He still does not love solids. He is over a year old, and that baby just wants milk. And, you know, I'm not really pressuring him. Like, we're offering him food. But, like, my sister's youngest is, like, eating full meals. And she's, like, 7-8 months. And he's over here just, like, I literally tried to hand him food the other day. And he smacked it aside and, like, reached for my boob. Like, he wants milk all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to, like, decide how I feel about that. Because I am planning to nurse him, like, up to 18 months. But obviously you need to introduce food and like back off the nursing, and so we're still struggling with that. But he doesn't really bite me, like,
that's good,
unless he's really tired and like can't focus on like what he's doing. He'll accidentally bite me.
And maybe there's some of the mouth ties and stuff maybe going back is still affecting him for solid food, and so obviously he's figured out milk and he knows how to latch now, but it still could be, it is a whole new world for him. It's a whole new experience for him.
I never considered that, but like, yeah, he'll chew, he likes food, he'll chew it, spit it out. Chew it, spit it out.
Yeah.
So,
might be a swallowing thing going on.
Yeah, he won't swallow anything that's not, like, he'll do purees.
Yeah.
But I was trying to do, like, you know, more solids and, like, requiring him to chew, and he'll chew it up and spit it out every time.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be, and that I think goes to when I'm encouraging moms of like, hey, if your baby is having a latching issue and you need to use a bottle, there's still benefits to trying to get them to nurse, because you're helping them achieve some of these mouth muscle goals. Mm-hmm. And then later, of course, with food that can play in. And then, of course, later on in life, some of those tongue ties or whatever can affect mouth breathing or snoring or
speech.
Speech.
Yeah, one of my nieces had a lip tie that she got corrected late. And, like, you can tell in her speech that it's made a big difference, too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I know some moms who, like, they've struggled with that with food, but then all of a sudden their baby figured it out. And sometimes they don't incrementally learn. Sometimes they learn all at once.
I think that's how he is. Like, he'll not do something for a week and then do it 100%.
Yeah.
Like, so he'll figure it out. I'm not worried about it. It's just, like, funny because they're like, oh, like, what all is he eating? I'm like, milk.
Yeah.
I mean, and some yogurt, and trying to shove ground beef in his face, and he just throws it to the dogs.
Yeah.
Well, I'm no longer pumping, so that's I stopped pumping in like 11 and a half months, 12 months.
And you still have some milk just in case? Or do you donate it all?
I have some because I have some friends about to adopt, and I've saved it for them. So it still has some time for that. But, like, I tried to set around a year. I was like, okay, I've got plenty for him. I'm going to stop pumping unless I'm, like, super uncomfortable. And that's when, like, all the clogs come. Like, my boobs tried their best to adjust.
Yeah.
But I got mastitis again. Got it twice. So, and I just did the same protocol and got rid of it the second time, too. But they really struggle with cutting it off.
And he's 13 months now?
He's about to be 13 months, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so you have time to kind of, hopefully it'll be a slower, if that's what your body needs.
It needs a very slow wean.
Yes.
So
yes,
still letting him drink as much milk as he wants while not pumping has been like I don't say no if he wants milk because I don't want to get mastitis a third time.
Yeah.
So
that's exciting. I feel like I was going to ask another question about weaning, but with him being a year. Oh, and how does that feel, being able to donate milk? Like, what's the feeling for you I've interviewed some moms who receive donor milk, but this is my first time interviewing someone who's actually donating milk. What does that feel like for you?
Yeah, it feels like, it's an interesting feeling because it's like, on one side of my brain, I was like, what if I need it? And the other side of my brain, I'm like, you don't need it. Like, and I also, like, kudos to people that can just drop off their milk at a donor bank and, like, think nothing of it. But I, like, needed a face. Like, that's why, like, everyone I donated to, or I charged most of my friends, like, $1 a bag because, like, of, you know, cost of the bags and stuff like that. And they wanted to pay. But, like, so I didn't technically donate milk. But for some reason, like, knowing the person made me, like, 100% more comfortable. But yeah, I think the Lord just kept, every time I had too much, the Lord, like, gave me a friend that suddenly needed milk. And, like, so I always had somebody who needed it. And that was that was another way he, like, took care of every need.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I love hearing about how you were able to overcome some of these things and being an entrepreneur and choosing your baby, but also being able to do your business as well is so encouraging. And there are moms out there that have oversupply and have to deal with those challenges. And just knowing that they're not alone, I think your story is so amazing. So thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Breastfeeding Diaries. If you like what you heard, please share it with anyone who is in the lactation or breastfeeding world. And if you want to engage with us, please follow us on Instagram at the Breastfeeding Diaries Podcast or email us at breastfeedingdiaries@gmail.com. We'll see you next time. Thanks.